Hey, here we are again, the DPB Show on Thursday from 4 to 5. Thank you. I'm going to let the audience build a little bit here. I appreciate all of you taking time to utilize one of the formats, whether that be Rumble, YouTube, X, or Facebook. Um, I just am so grateful. Obviously, I am overjoyed to have this studio. As you can see, since Tuesday, did a little home decoration here or studio decoration. Utilized my skills and put it together. I had the help of my beautiful wife. She purchased a couple of these things. I also went to Hobby Lobby. They're not a sponsor of the DPB show yet, but maybe they will be because I did pick up a few things from the Hobby Lobby. And you know what? It's starting to look a little bit more like a studio. You know, we put this together as quickly as we could once we found out that we would no longer be broadcasting or on the radio at cities 92.9. And if it takes people around you, and I want to weave that into the conversation today because I think it's important to understand that, as the title of the show says, Nikki Haley, I don't have a clue why it is that she is where she's at, but I believe it's because she's being propped up. I'm going to play a little video from Vivek. He was doing a piece with Darren Beatty on X yesterday, and I happened to come across it last night and wanted to incorporate it because I'm going to let him tell you, because he's on the stage with Nikki. He's on the inside. I mean, he's a billionaire, little old DPB. I'm not a billionaire. I'm one of you. I'm just an ordinary guy, and I just take it from my vantage point, what I see and what I've learned over the past 7 years, especially as I became active, civic minded, and made myself more public in the civic arena. And believe me, that comes with a toll. There's a price to be paid. If you are not somebody that is in the mainstream of politics, you're going to be persecuted. That's just how it is. However, the cool thing about it is you have a lot of relationships. I happened to have a lunch yesterday with I call him a friend now. He's an activist when it comes to his leanings when it pertains to political leanings. He happens to be a judge in McLean County, and it was just an enjoyable lunch. He's brilliant. He's an originalist, so he's similar to my friend Mike McCaney, Judge McCaney, who I had on the DPB show after the Dobbs ruling came out with Roe v. Wade, and Michael did an amazing job of just breaking that down. And giving all the details, but those are the relationships that you create and in stepping out and getting into the arena. And I'm thankful because it also has afforded me the opportunity to have this place, this space to utilize, to come to you every Tuesday and Thursday from 4 to 5 live. Um, and and I don't know where I'm going to be. Um, you know, a week from now, a month from now. I'm just thankful that I get today, right? I get this hour to be with you guys, talking a little bit about the ongoings of what's happening. And I don't want to deviate too far uh, because I know that it's easy to get caught up into the weeds of life, um, especially when when you're not accustomed to doing something. This is very foreign to me. Obviously, I wasn't doing live podcast. We had, streaming inside of the studio, the radio studio. But for the most part, it was radio, right? I would look at a clock. The clock would count down. There'd be bump music. It would lead me into each segment of the show. But here you get DPB and you and me for an hour. And it's into this camera, and I try to do the best I can to always look at the camera. See, sometimes I look down here, sometimes I look up here, but most of the time I'm learning to look up here. Uh, that happened to be the little training seminar I gave earlier today. I think I shared with you guys that on Tuesday, I had that on that on Tuesday there was going to be a special person coming into the DPB studio, but not to be a guest on my show. Last Tuesday I had Ryan Mack on the show, but that was Jasmine Jordan, and I want you guys to keep an eye out for Jasmine. You can tune in to Fox News or Fox, the channel Fox network on Sunday at 9 o'clock. Jasmine Jordan, she's a young conservative from the University of Iowa. She was here just about 2 hours ago, and she was taping the show that will run on Sunday night at 9 o'clock with Harris Faulkner. And I didn't stay in the studio while she was doing the interview. I think that can be unnerving at times. Uh, and you got to get used to having people in and around you when you're live and or doing an interview. And so I stepped out, but I was listening from outside the door, and I could hear. And she is very dynamic. I mean, the future looks great. When you look at the young generation of people that are coming up, I am so inspired. I've told you about the young people that I've had the ability to be associated with, whether that be Kevin Ferris, Kat Peterson, Ty Smith, Ryan McKenzie, Josh Bender, Paul Garcia. I mean, I know that the future isn't a loss. They see what's happening. They get it. They have a grasp of where we've come from and where we possibly could be going if we don't take action, if we don't address the issues that are in front of us. And I believe most of those folks that I just mentioned, the young people, Jasmine especially, because she will be doing a interview with a Korean news outlet because she's a Trump supporter. And of course, she goes to the University of Iowa. So she is going to be around being interviewed multiple times throughout the weekend because Monday is the Iowa caucus. We're already there. Boom, we've landed. And that kind of leads me into the Nikki Haley piece, right? All we've been hearing about is um, in the mainstream legacy propaganda media is Nikki Haley. They need something else. They can't stop the Trump train. Uh, Trump is on a course to walking away with it in Iowa, then New Hampshire. I think still her numbers have come up a little bit beyond DeSantis's numbers. Obviously, Chris Christie has made it a personal vendetta against Trump that he will never be president. I remember a whole montage of people saying that Trump will never be the president of the United States of America back in 2015 in going into the election year of 2016, that he would never be the president. In fact, Barack Obama said that Trump would never be the president of the United States of America. And that's the vitriol, that's the vindictiveness that's out there. I mean, we see it, we're surrounded with it. I was reading it earlier on X and some of the posting, lock him up. They're just having I guess they're having joy or a delight before the reality sets in. And the reality is, as I can tell right now, and I think many others agree with me, Trump is going to be the next president. What is the fallout after that? We've already seen what they're willing to do in 2016. We have seen what they're willing to do um, in the course of Trump running for office again. Right? They've done everything they've thrown everything at him. The election of 2020, as I've said, was a rigged election. I'll continue to stand by that. Um, there's no question in my mind. It's like January 6th. And I'm going to do a little segue here. This wasn't planned, but January 6th, I was there. And I find it fascinating that people who know me and support me and have listened to my show, They understand the heart of me, uh, or at least I believe they do. They get it. They know who I am. They they stand by me, and I tell them the same story. And I tell everyone. I told Annie from the Washington Post. I told Charlie Schlinker from WGLT when he asked for a statement. I told the young news reporters from WEEK, WHOI upon returning from January 6th, the same story. I was there. I saw what I saw. You can't unsee what I saw with my own two eyes. I believe myself to be someone that's, has the ability to be objective, to look at things. But as I shared many times over, political theater, that is what we see. In fact, political theater makes up politics today. We see it demonstrated on the debate stage. Even Vivek, I mean, it's just goes with the crowd. Trump, especially, he did a town hall last night. I caught part of it. Basically, he's not going to stop uh, and get off message. He's hammering home with his videos. He's going to continue to stay on message because they know they have the Biden administration on the run. The Biden administration or the Biden regime has enough issues to deal with outside of running for the presidency of the United States of America. In fact, Joe Biden will not be the nominee of the Democrat Party. You can mark my word on that. I believe that's leads us into my Nikki Haley story. I believe Nikki Haley is actually the candidate of the Democrat Party. And stay with me on that because I know that's a bold statement, right? I've seen this before, and it's happening more often than you would think. It happened here locally in the Central Illinois area, in the town of Normal. We had a city council race where we had three very good conservative candidates running for city council, town council, and they would have carried the Republican vote. Unfortunately, and once again, strategically, you got to give credit where credit's due. The Democrats, now everybody's going to say, but those are nonpartisan races. That's nothing further from the truth. There's nothing called nonpartisan races anymore. I don't care what level of government you are at. Everything is partisan. There's partisan politics all around. I mean, it's in the school systems, it's in the sporting events, it's politics. That's how the world goes around. It's learning to play the game. Unfortunately, and it saddens me, but there's politics in church. I mean, it just is what it is. It's infiltrated every aspect of our lives. Um, but as I was saying, the town council race, we had three conservative libertarians / Republicans candidates for the town council race. Well, what the Dems did was they figured out, well, we'll get the Democrat votes and we'll skim off some of the Republican votes, and we'll realize a victory. And sure enough, that's what happened. They ran Kathleen Lorenz, they ran Andy Byers, and then there was a sitting council person, Karen Smith, who had the office as the council person in Normal because of Stan Nord, who was running for a second term as council person. But Karen was able to get the office because she ran with Stan back in 2019. Was it 2019 or 2017? 2019, right? What year were we? 2023 was, yep, 2019. So Karen ran with Stan. So now she created this other slate where two registered, or I should say self-professed Republicans, Kathleen Lorenz and Andy Byers, ran with Karen Smith, and they ended up there were no real Democrat candidates other than Karen in the race. even though Karen the last time around ran with Stan as someone who was fiscally conservative, therefore maybe the candidate of the Republican Party, which that did prove out because Stan and both Karen won that year. But they ran this race, and sure enough, the Democrats got behind Kathleen Lorenz and Andy Byers. Now, Andy Byers especially had worked on many campaigns for Republican candidates, whether that be Dan Brady, Rodney Davis. Uh, he was somebody that was definitely involved. In fact, he was Scott Preston's campaign manager during Scott's run against Sharon Chung for the 91st state rep seat of Illinois. So see how the inner workings kind of come together? And that's just not at the local level. That, as I said, has permeated everything in politics. So that brings me to the Vivek thing. And I'm going to do something, because I don't have the ability to do all the high tech stuff, but I'm going to play this video, audio, but you're not going to see the video. But I'm going to play this because I think it's fascinating to hear what Vivek had to say about Nikki Haley.
First of all, do you think the regime is smart enough to understand that they would be better off with Nikki Haley than Joe Biden, because it could potentially appease conservative voters, say, hey, we won this time, but in fact, they're getting something arguably even worse than Biden. So the establishment kind of gets the best of both worlds in that.
Not only do I think I'm smart enough there, they have been far ahead of the curve, even of many in our own movement and our own primary base that are falling for the trick and the trap that they play. For myself, speaking for myself, I think this only became clear to me in maybe the last couple of months. For most of this, I already had the sense, and I think it was a deep intuition grounded in a lot of things, that this was not going to be a Trump versus Biden race in 2024. I think it's been clear to me for much of the last year, most of the last year. The clues are obvious enough. I mean, what they're doing to Trump, but even the beginnings of what they're beginning to do to Biden, pulling out the documents case. And they're all for killing two birds with one stone, because part of that is they just want to appear nonpartisan in the prosecutions against Trump for the documents case. But part of this is, it looked like, if you follow the breadcrumbs, they're getting ready to sideline Biden a little bit. You think about the Hunter Biden investigations now only catching steam. Why? The media only paying attention to it now. Why? So it was clear to me that they're setting up for something quite different than Trump versus Biden. Into the, I think, illusion that this was going to be because they want to set up to prop up Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama or somebody else.
But what is the plan here? Do you think, first of all, do you think the regime is smart enough to understand that they would be better off with Nikki Haley than Joe Biden, because it could potentially appease conservative voters, say, hey, we won this time, but in fact, they're getting something arguably even worse than Biden. So the establishment kind of gets the best of both worlds in that regard.
Not only do I think they're smart enough there, I think that they have been far ahead of the curve, even of many in our own movement and our own primary base that are falling for the trick and the trap that they play. For myself, speaking for myself, I think this only became clear to me in maybe the last couple of months. For most of this, I already had the sense, and I think it was a deep intuition grounded in a lot of things, that this was not going to be a Trump versus Biden race in 2024. I think that's been clear to me for much of the last year, for most of the last year. The clues are obvious enough. I mean, what they're doing to Trump, but even the beginnings of what they're beginning to do to Biden, pulling out the documents case. And they're all for killing two birds with one stone, because part of that is they just want to appear nonpartisan in the prosecutions against Trump for the documents case. But part of this is, it looked like, if you follow the breadcrumbs, they're getting ready to sideline Biden a little bit. You think about the Hunter Biden investigations now only catching steam. Why? The media only paying attention to it now. Why? So it was clear to me that they're setting up for something quite different than Trump versus Biden. I fell into the, I think, illusion that this was going to be because they want to set up to prop up Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama or somebody else.
I know that kind of overlaid itself, but it's good that it did, because it lets us hear, someone that's in the race, Vivek. Now, granted, he's not gathering any momentum he did at one time to break the single digits in the amount of support that he's getting. But Vivek has done something unique to this race. He has this intuitive nature as a business person, entrepreneur, and he's not a politician. He's not gifted with the ability to have all the insider information and support. And that's what it takes, right? It takes that, or it takes you to create your own movement, which is what Trump has done. Trump is the Republican Party. The Republican Party, what's left of it after Trump, well, that's where you have the Nikki Haley, the Chris Christies, the Ron DeSantises, and they too are adamant about not having Trump as the next president of the United States of America. And now, will they find allegiance with the Democrats? I think they've run out of time. I truly believe they thought they would have Trump out of the race by now. That's the only reason that some of these folks even got into the race for the presidency. But Nikki Haley, this is unique because it is similar to what I just explained to you about the town council race of Normal. They have seeded, and they continue to seed. The media helps with this, of course. They are running, they're the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party and the establishment party and the cabal and the deep state. But they keep running interference intentionally, and this election interference is all part of that. We know now that the January 6th select committee was having discussions with our friend down in Georgia in Fulton County as the Fulton County district attorney, or state's attorney. I don't know what they go by down there. I think she's the district attorney. But they were meeting with her. So this is all cooked. These folks are scared. They love their lifestyle. They love how they live. They don't want it to be disrupted because it's not about you and me and in the mainstream of life. It's truly about um, keeping power, keeping you and I at bay, and controlling how it is we go forward as a country. And some of this is really kind of stuff that you would believe you would be reading in a science fiction novel, right? It's beyond George Orwell because it's much more deviant than that. That's one thing we can count on, is that once once evil has its a way inside of something, which it has for many years now, especially in Washington, D.C., and the state of Illinois, and even some of the local communities, Chicago. Once evil gets in there, once Satan has his way, then he controls the hearts and the minds of people. And now, granted, that gets a little bit out there, right? With some people, they're like, really, they're grown adults. Can't they control their own thoughts, their own minds? Not necessarily. Don't underestimate the power of evil, the power of Satan, the power of the darkness, the dark side of things. They continue to lie. Somebody had mentioned, it was my wife was mentioning this today. I have so many conversations during the day, but my wife was mentioning this today. She said, she goes, Fauci now is going out and testifying in front of Congress that social distancing was something that just kind of organically came out of thin air. Are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? All of those little arrows that we put up in grocery stores and the the pharmacies and anywhere else. In fact, I think anywhere you went, you had to stand 6 feet apart, right? They were promoting that in the schools. They created an industry of vinyl, glue down stickers to make sure that all of us knew where to stand, when to stand, how to stand. Social distancing. Now he's backing off of that. That's what I'm talking about. The darkness, the ability for evil to captivate everything. That's what I see this with Nikki Haley. It didn't work with Ron DeSantis, right? As I've said many times over, Ron DeSantis is one of the best governors out there. Unfortunately, Ron was sold a bill of goods. I believe that the establishment with their money, and it's limited because the Republican Party doesn't have a lot of money, but the billionaire class, the limousine class, those people have a lot of money. And they play both sides of the fence, always have, always will. The Ken Griffins of the world who contributed to Ron DeSantis's campaign, who also contributed to Richard Irvin's campaign to the sum of $50 million. He moved his operations out of Chicago and down to Miami. In fact, I heard a report that Miami is going to be the next Wall Street of the United States. The way that they're gathering billionaires in the amount of commercial space that's being leased and purchased. I mean, I heard something about it was 2.5 acres or 2 acres for $200 million. $200 million for 2 acres of prime commercial property. Ay. But that's the influence that the billionaire class has. And they do drive elections. We saw that with Mark Zuckerberg. We saw that with Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post. We saw that with Elon Musk and Twitter, purchasing Twitter and flipping that entire platform upside down. Now, where that ends up going, nobody knows. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the second part of today's show, because I think that that's the most pertinent piece that we can take away as people of faith, people who are conservative in nature. And that is that we don't really know what tomorrow holds. And believe me, I think it's time that believing, faith-filled people, followers of Christ, start really taking an inventory of who we are and what we do. That's not going on in the political campaign. We need people like Donald Trump out there. I mean, if not for Donald Trump, I don't know where else would we be. I understand what his language is. I understand what Joe Biden's language is. And most of the liberal Marxist leaning people, they're very flowery. It always sounds wonderful. It's their actions. It's the entire implosion. Now, I don't know if they truly intended to crush this economy. I believe they did. In fact, Klaus Schwab wrote a book about it called The Great Reset out of the World Economic Forum. I mean, he could have probably chose a different title to his book, right? But it was The Great Reset. They want a great reset. They've proven that time in and time out. Everything about them is about the Great Reset. And in order to maintain power, they're even willing to do what's called the replacement theory. Now, I understand that's a conspiracy theory according to the left, until you talk to people on the left who are running for office in congressional districts, where they said that they are welcoming those people because they need to backfill the numbers that are departing some of these districts, specifically the blue states. And they need to make sure they maintain control and power. Like in Illinois, we lost a congressional seat over the last census, even though the governor of Illinois says that we weren't losing population. In fact, I just saw that disproved here in an Illinois policy article where the governor for a long time was saying that we actually gained 250,000 in population over 10 years. And now they backed away from that. They realized the reality is in just 3 short years, We've already lost another 300,000 people out of Illinois. They can't continue to try to backfill, but that's what it's about. That's why Illinois is a sanctuary state. Illinois is a sanctuary state, even though some of these counties, even McLean County, right here, where I'm broadcasting from, or podcasting from. I keep saying broadcasting. Must be the radio personality in me. Oh, and I just said, and that's one of my big pet peeves. I don't do the thing very well. I listen to people when they do the thing, but I don't do it. However, we have lost population, and many counties are trying to be non-sanctuary counties, meaning they do not want to take any more illegal aliens coming from Mexico, shipped here via Texas by Governor Abbott. And they are putting up a defense. Grundy County currently has that in place. You're going to see many more counties that do that. And they say, send them on up to Chicago. Chicago is a sanctuary city. Therefore, Chicago should deal with it. Now, granted, Mayor Brandon Johnson has already appealed to the president of the United States, Joe Biden. And it sounds like Joe Biden's already actively looking to tax pension income, retirement income, savings income, any kind of income, in order to undergird this replacement theory and these people that he's openly accepting and letting come across the border without defending our border, as was the plan under President Trump, build the wall. There was a reason for that. Secure your borders. Why? Because of the very thing that they are doing right now. They're trying to flood the entire United States with a new class of voters. Now, many say, well, you're just being racist. You're being, a white supremacist. You're being less than Christ-like. No, that's not true. I believe that every person is a person of worth and dignity. And I don't believe in using people for political gain. That, to me, is racist. What Joe Biden is doing, and he's been doing over the course of his entire political career of 50 plus years, is racist. Utilizing people who really want a better way of life, for the most part. I believe there are some players involved in the crossing of the borders who don't mean or who intend to do ill will to the United States of America. But that's the essence of it. That's the Nikki Haley piece. I mean, I know that it sounds like I just jumped all over the place. And possibly it is because I am, because to understand this, and I try to take the complex and simplify it because I am a simple person and I'm just not that gifted. There are many that do a much better job than I do, but I need to break things down and look at them in a way. And this Nikki Haley piece really started to resonate with what the Democrat plan is, to install a president. Basically, when we talked earlier here in the month of December, and I said, or maybe even November when I started saying this, there possibly might not be an election in 2024, but another installation. That's what Joe Biden was. He was an installation, not an election, not a fair, free election based on votes. One person, one legal vote. I want to count every legal vote that's out there. And what makes a legal vote is casting a ballot without any of the nuances of the craziness of ballot harvesting, of drop boxes, of extended periods of election season where you get a run at it for 40, 50 days to cast a ballot. It's absurd. In fact, it is the essence of election interference, of cheating. And when all of those things fail and you get caught, you have to come up with a new plan. And that's where we're at. And it's good to see my friend Kat is on the show. There she is, agreed. She said, it's always good to have support from your colleagues and people who do it day in, day out. Kat's just like I am. You know, she sees this world. She sees it with her own eyes. Like I said about January 6th, I saw it with my own eyes. Don't tell me I didn't see what I saw. I saw bus loads of people being brought in with sirens. That was the craziness of it, and offloaded at the backside of the Capitol. I saw the fact that there wasn't a secure perimeter to the United States Capitol on such an important day. It was a facade. It was political theater. It was all propped up. I look forward to getting the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help us, God. Someday it's going to come out. Yes, I did. Kat's asking about Ray Epps' sweetheart deal. Yes, I did see it. And I also saw the interview with the congressional lead or the congressman from uh, Louisiana, who said that he believes on what he has witnessed and what he has seen and what now is in the hands of the DOJ, which what does that mean? That there were upwards of, and I said DOJ, well, I meant the judges of the Department of Justice, not the Department of Justice itself, but the judges in the case of Ray Epps and some others, is there were upwards of 200 plus assets, FBI agents in and around the Capitol on J6. But the reason for that, going down that hole, all of this is interrelated. I hope that you're seeing this. Everything they do is calculated. Everything. I didn't realize that you could spend as much time as they do. And I appreciate Jordan joining in today. Good afternoon, DPB. Love the show. Thank you, Jordan. It's good to see you, my friend. I can't believe that anybody can sit around day in, day out and manufacture what the left does. It is perplexing at best to say, how in the world, I don't know about you, but I have enough time in a given day to make my bed, go to work, do laundry, fix meals, get a little fitness in, right? A little wellness, little walk. I've got a St. Bernard. You all know that, Bella. Get Bella out for a couple walks a day. When you look at the simplicity of life for what I believe most conservative people are like, it pales to what these folks do on the other side. I mean, what does it take to weave the web that they have? I believe it's woven over the decades upon decades. And in the when they talk about the establishment in politics, it's really no different than organized crime. That's played out with the Hunter Biden case, with Joe Biden's regime. Organized crime used to be Al Capone, right? It used to be the gangsters out in Las Vegas when they formulated Las Vegas. It used to be the areas that they control, gambling, the bars, and prostitution. Now it's still, for the most part, gambling, bars, legal marijuana, prostitution, and so much more. Influence, selling everything, selling out you and I, the American public. That's the expertise of what they're weaving. And they're going to continue to do that. I know I'm a little long. I want to get to this video that I've been watching now, and I've watched it a couple. I think I'm on my third listening viewing of the video itself, but the video is powerful. It's the title of it is "The Power of a Quiet Life." And I kind of touched on this on Tuesday, but this is by Francis Chan. I don't know about you. If you're familiar with who Francis Chan is, I'll put something up in the comments about that. His name's Francis Chan. It's The Power of a Quiet Life. But it's really kind of pushed me into the next phase, I think, of this year. Remember, our title for the year is More in 2024. There's going to be more of everything that was in 2023 is just rushing into 2024. We're only 11 days in to 2024, and it's like a tsunami on both sides. Trump's a tsunami, and the powers to be that prop up the Biden regime is a tsunami. And eventually you're going to see this thing come to a head. And that will be in November when there is a general election and we vote, I should say, select. It's better than install the next president of the United States, when we vote for the next president of the United States. And the power of a quiet life has challenged me to really reflect about how we go into 2024. Why I say that is because so much of our life is noise. In fact, everything about social media is a distraction, even the good stuff. I mean, there's plenty of good out on social media. And the way I came about this video from Francis Chan is part of social media, but it can be so distracting. Our phones, our computers, so much distraction, which is not the essence of the power of a quiet life. And what does that truly mean, quiet life? As he defines it, it's in 1 Thessalonians 12. It talks about this, that when you go into a quiet place, seek out the sanctity and the quality of having a one-on-one relationship with God in your prayer life. In fact, I think there's mention of going into the quiet room, into the secret room, right? We understand that there's plenty of secrets out there, but I'm not talking about those secrets on the political side of things. I'm talking about a secret place where you can be alone, you can talk with God, and you can truly dig down deep into understanding how it is that we propel ourselves through life, a humble life, a life based on service, on serving others and not ourselves. Obviously, there's so much self-ambition out there. That's demonstrated, as I said, with social media. And now I know that many of you that are watching today, you might not be included in that. I think that as I see some of your names, you're starting that journey. And it is a very long faith journey. One of the things that Francis points out in this video is, wouldn't it be amazing if social media, the posting that we do on social media, was our sins, the sinful nature that we have, rather than all of the deeds and the selfies and everything else like that? Not to take anything, there's not anything, some of that is good, especially if it's in the context of staying connected with family and friends. But the amount that we do and what our society has become, we've moved so far from being quiet, waiting on the Lord, truly digging down deep and asking the question, what miracles could truly happen when we aren't distracted, when we're in that classroom of silence? How can we live our lives differently in 2024? When we talk about more in 2024, if we want more love, we want more strength, we want more power, we want more serving opportunities. His point is, what happens when we're not promoting our good nature, promoting our deeds? What happens when we're not promoting our sin? Because some of it is promoting sin. But when we're not promoting our deeds, what will God deliver to us when we're not steeped in the self-absorption of everything that goes on in the context of the world that we live in. As I said, this is a direct contrast to what we see in this campaign. You know, is it important that there are voices out there that are willing to stand in the gap, to take on a um, to take on the forces that are out there? And I do believe they're the forces of evil. Um, it's not it doesn't surprise me that we're where we're at this time in our country. I'm for certain that 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 where we are at is part of God's plan. Uh, as I said, you know, God didn't create evil. God didn't create uh, the darkness. God is only light. We know that. However, it is still part of His plan, because ultimately the triumph and what will transpire in the days ahead, which is basically the quiet life. The quiet life is the here and now. The quiet life is living in the moment. The quiet life is quieting the mind, quieting the body, quieting your spirit long enough to know that there is something that is out there. You know, as the song goes, somewhere out there beyond the pale moonlight, there is so much out there that none of us have the ability to even begin to fathom. I love that saying is, could we truly handle um God telling us what our lives would look like tomorrow or the next day or the next day after that in the here and now? If you truly knew what was going to happen, how would you live? You know, I remember that show, uh, Early Edition, I think was the name of the show. I didn't watch it much. I just remember the title, and I remember what the premise of the show was about. That basically this young man was given the happenings that went on tomorrow before tomorrow came. To have the insight to knowing what happens tomorrow, how many of us could handle knowing that? And how would we handle it if we could? Well, we can handle part of it, and we can be assured that we do know a little bit about what is going to transpire. My friend Kat Peterson and I were talking about that before I came on today's show. That we know there's a second coming. We know Christ returns to earth. We know the story of Revelation. But that's not a story that should find us seized up and unable to move. It should be um, a joyous knowing, or joy knowing. See, I'm just overwhelmed by even talking about this, and I encourage you, go out and listen to the video from Francis Chan. But even knowing that Christ is coming back to earth, I welcome that day whenever it is. But how do we live in the moment, in here and now? Yes, we need to plan. Planning is part of it. And especially in light of what could transpire in 2024, we should be vigilant in planning out a lot of things, because we know what people groups are capable of doing. We witnessed that in 2016. We saw the kill, steal, and destroy mentality that was unleashed on many of the big metropolitan areas. In fact, came to some of our smaller communities, mid-sized communities, where people truly acted uh, like animals. And so that's something that we need to plan for. We need to be vigilant. We need to prepare. We need to be on guard. But that doesn't take away from the here and now and what we should be doing in the moment. That's this part of that Francis Chan talks about, is coming into communion, coming into a relationship of quiet with God, with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Wouldn't it be nice if the politicians of the world, at least some of them, would speak the name of Jesus Christ? Now, I know some do, and I applaud those that are willing to stand up and do that. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, one of them. President Trump released a Christmas salutation where he professed that the coming of Christ in his birth was the greatest event that has happened to date in all of history. And he's right. How many presidents have gone on a camera and have made those statements? How many of your elected officials, how many politicians are willing to make that statement, a declaration, not the Declaration of Independence that's over my shoulder, but a declaration of faith? Because that's how the Declaration of Independence was formulated by the founders of this country. They declared freedom of religion, freedom of liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have grown so far from that. And part of that, I believe, is how consumed we have come with moving beyond the quietness of life. As Francis says in this video, and I hope that you go out there, I'll post it on my DPB show page on Facebook. But I hope you go out and watch it. It's about 37 minutes, and he's at the Jesus conference, Jesus 23 conference. But I hope you go out and watch it, because he really challenges us. He said there is a need for people to be a voice crying out in the desert. But there's also a need for people to be quiet, to be going about their business, living a life, not going away from spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, continuing to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, but to go away from living the modern life. I believe that ultimately that is part of the return. The second coming is a return to Jesus and to that way of life that Jesus walked while he was on this earth. Because what we see out there amongst the world today, there's a very little Jesus, and there's a whole lot of everything else. I think I've got it covered today. Yeah, I'm feeling a little, energy has gone down a little bit. So much because I think it's easy to be deflated. And I hope that that's not where you find yourself. If you do, by all means, I guess I'll have to say it, reach out, talk to a friend, go to church, go to a pastor, go to church at the Tabernacle this Sunday at 10 a.m. We're there every Sunday. If you're in Central Illinois, specifically Normal, Illinois, West Hovey Avenue. We're there at 10 a.m. Tabernacle, continuing the God First series. But go to church. It's yes, the week can wear you on or wear you out and wear on you. That's what I try to say. I try to do a little compound statement, but it can wear you out and it can wear on you. And how do you fill back up? Not only in the classroom of silence and learning the quietness of life, but you do that at church. That's a good place to go and just reflect and to be in the moment and live in the moment, especially if you're finding yourself at a loss, that all of this is getting overwhelming. And I'm one that I get overwhelmed by it. I have the gift of the Holy Spirit inside me, that I have discernment and feelings, that it is just amazing how worn down you can get from all the happenings that go on around us. I feel a little bit like that today. I told you earlier, and I just want to make sure I get it back out there, that I was in studio here, set up with Jasmine Jordan, dynamic, young, conservative, from the University of Iowa, college student, who was interviewing with Harris Faulkner for a show that will air 9 o'clock on Sunday night. So go out to Fox News and watch that. Uh, the Fox station, I should say, it's the Fox News channel, and watch Jasmine, watch the future of America, because that's what it's about. I want to build a bench. I want to continue building a bench. I want to continue to bring young minds who are thirsting for knowing and living out a Christ-centered life in the political realm. And like I said, believe me, if ever there was a place that needed Jesus, it's Washington, D.C., Springfield, any of our city councils, village boards. We need more Jesus, more love, more Jesus, more power. We need it in 2024. Hey, I'm up against the end of the hour. Like I said, come back on Tuesday. I'll be here Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5. I'm still waiting on God to prompt me a little bit more. I've talked about doing a third hour during the week. Um, on the radio, when you do an hour of radio, it's only about 44 minutes of talk, sometimes a little less. Could be, well, and it could be a little more. It could be 48 minutes of talk. And you have plenty of time to catch your breath. Here in the podcast world, it's not about catching your breath. It's rock and roll. It's, strap in and go a million miles in a very short period of time. And, metaphorically, right? Because we're trying to cover a lot of material, and a lot of stuff comes to me. You'll see that even in Francis Chan's video. He said, what I prepare, and yours truly prepares. I know you're probably saying, David Paul, it doesn't appear like you're prepared. No, I'm prepared. Life has prepared me. I've seen it with my own eyes. I read and read. And at some point, you got to say, enough's enough, and put it down and say, God, what do you want me to say today? How do you want me to address the DPB show audience? And I'm still working on it. I don't know what's going to happen, as I said earlier. As I said about Francis Chan, I'm waiting. I'm seeking the knowledge, seeking the wisdom, asking God, where do you want this to go? Because this is serious. This is serious business. Having the opportunity to be on a microphone, I hope that people are espousing what God wants them to be saying, because there's not a lot of opportunities. None of us know what tomorrow holds, especially for our own lives. So I want to make sure, if there's something that I'm saying, first and foremost, I always want to tell people I love them, right? And I can look right in the camera and say that to my wife, Tanya, to my daughters, Cassidy and Hannah. Can you imagine this? And I know there was a show many years ago with, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he filmed and documented his life as he was told that he was dying of a terminal illness, and that his family had the opportunity to go back and watch that. Watch what he had to say. What was the wisdom? What was the knowledge he was sharing with his daughter, I think it was at the time. I can't remember the name of the show. But we don't get a lot of opportunities. This is the opportunity we have right here, right now. So I want to leave with this. Peace be with you. I love you. I will be back on Tuesday, and Lord knows what's going to happen between now and Tuesday. And if it's something that is so breaking, I will possibly do another piece or show. I'm talking about doing some clips too, but I'm just warming up. Hey, give me a break. I hope you like the wares that we picked up from Hobby Lobby. But I will be back on Tuesday, 4 to 5. Please go out and like and subscribe at all of the platforms, whether that be Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, or X, at the DPB Show. Put those all together, because sometimes if you put a space in between, you might not pull it up. But at the DPB Show, please share, like, subscribe. We're only going to get better. As I said, there's more in 2024. And until Tuesday, I will see you guys then. Take care.